Before we continue with the rest of the video, we could use your help. Click that like button to help spread the word about Watchjojo, and also be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos. 8 canceled superhero movies that almost happened. Superhero movies have taken Hollywood and the world at large by storm. There's no denying that superhero movies are making most of the big money at the box office. Avengers: Infinity War earned over $2 billion at the worldwide box office this year, and Black Panther reached a staggering $1 billion. Deadpool, with only 2 movies released, has already become a billion-dollar franchise. Such was the case with the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise too. Indeed, even back when superhero movies weren't Hollywood's favorite type of films, the genre flourished with movies like Spider-Man 3 and Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, the latter of which also earned over $1 billion. So we can't blame Hollywood for trying to make even more superhero films, since, on average, they tend to make a lot of money. As the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Alas, as optimistic as that might sound, more often than not though, despite the studio's best interest, these superhero movies end up being shelved or outright cancelled for many different reasons. That's why when we hear that a new superhero movie is in production, it's better to take such news with a grain of salt, as the worst could and might actually happen, as we are about to explore soon. Nevertheless, while a superhero flick can get cancelled at any time, that doesn't mean that we should lose all hope. Indeed, axed projects have been resurrected before, though for some reason we tend not to hear much about said resurrections. Number 8. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies defined a generation of fans and comic book movie lovers. With Tobey Maguire donning the mantle, Spider-Man became an even bigger icon thanks to his portrayal on the silver screen. The first movie gave us a pretty decent rendition of the character, as well as a solid characterization of the Green Goblin. Spider-Man 2 exceeded expectations, becoming one of the best superhero films in the genre. Unfortunately though, the momentum came to a halt when Raimi was practically forced to include Venom in Spider-Man 3. This mere inclusion completely capsized the film, making it convoluted and at times nonsensical. Thus, the next installment, Spider-Man 4, was cancelled. Despite being axed, certain aspects of Spider-Man 4 made its way into Spider-Man: Homecoming, like the Vulture. Number 7. Justice League Mortal. Back before Warner Bros. Created the DC Extended Universe, a Justice League movie was in development with director George Miller of Mad Max Fury Road fame at the helm of the project. This was way back in 2009. Even though Christopher Nolan was already taking the comic book world by storm with his Batman films, this Justice League film was going to have a very different Batman. Indeed, the cast included Armie Hammer as the Gotham City hero, Common as Green Lantern, Anton Yelchin as the Flash, Hugh Keys Byrne as Martian Manhunter, DJ Kratrona as Superman, and Megan Gale as Wonder Woman. Unfortunately, circumstances like the 2008 Writers Guild strike and production costs prevented the film from happening. Number 6. X-Men Origins Magneto. There was a time when the X-Men franchise was highly profitable and extremely loved by the fans and general audience. So great was the hype that Fox announced it was going to develop several Origins spin-offs to expand their X-Men cinematic universe. Fox decided to give Wolverine and Magneto the prequel treatment. Both X-Men Origins Wolverine and X-Men Origins Magneto were in development around the same time, but it was the Wolverine film that hit theaters first. While it's not known why Fox abandoned the project and the Origins format, the Magneto film eventually evolved into Matthew Vaughn's X-Men First Class. X-Men Origins Wolverine was not well received by critics or fans, so perhaps that's one reason why Fox felt it was time to shelve the Magneto Origins film. Number 5. Mark Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man 3. When Sony rebooted the Spider-Man franchise, it placed Andrew Garfield in the Spidey suit and everyone loved him. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie captured the essence of Peter Parker handily. Fans still loved Tobey Maguire's take on the character, but it was undeniable how perfectly Garfield embodied the famous superhero. The first movie received great praise and quickly became a fan-favorite flick, but the same can't be said for the sequel. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed, leaving both fans and critics with unhappy faces, not to mention Sony, who felt it the most. Alas, that was the end of the franchise. Supposedly, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was going to revolve around Peter's magical blood and would have brought back Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy as a clone. Number 4. Nicolas Cage and Tim Burton's Superman Lives. It's almost hard to imagine anybody else playing Clark Kent/Superman other than Henry Cavill. Even though the rumor has it that Warner Brothers fired Cavill and are eyeing other actors for the role, there was once a time when the studio cast Nicolas Cage as the Kryptonian hero. Led by Tim Burton, the film was deep into production when it was sadly cancelled due to another Superman film being greenlit, among other reasons. Ironically, that other Superman film was also cancelled, but one can never forget how close fans were to seeing Burton's vision. In the film, Lex Luthor and Brainiac were going to essentially become one character. Even wilder, Cage's Superman was supposedly going to use his soul to enter Lois Lane's body. Number 3. Silver and Black. Sony has been trying to create a Spider-Man cinematic universe ever since Marvel Studios hit the jackpot with the MCU. Plans for a Sony shared universe came about after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but it all changed when that film flopped. Nevertheless, Sony wanted to make a shared universe. Venom will be the first film in Sony's universe of Marvel characters, or the SUMC. One other film that was announced to be in production was Silver and Black, concentrating on a superhero team-up between Black Cat and Silver Sable. The movie was being penned by a number of writers, including Gina Prince Bythewood, who was also going to direct the film. The project was later axed in favor of splitting the narrative into two different films, one centering on Black Cat and the other on Silver Sable. Number 2. James Cameron's Spider-Man. In this day and age, it's practically impossible to disassociate cinematic Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire or Tom Holland. Maguire's version of the character was the building block that eventually led to Holland's near-perfect rendition of Peter Parker/Spider-Man, but back in the 90s, things were going to take a very different turn. Titanic director James Cameron was developing a Spider-Man film. After scripts were written, with Cameron himself doing a treatment for the film, Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to play Dr. Octopus. Other villains were also set to appear. Leonardo DiCaprio was reportedly in talks to star as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Today, things would be very different if Cameron was given the green light. Number 1. Darren Aronofsky's Batman movie. Warner Brothers eventually gave the Batman property to Christopher Nolan, allowing the visionary director to reinvent the character as he wished. What we got was Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, arguably the best superhero movie trilogy of all time. Yet before Nolan came along, Warner Brothers had another director ready to reboot the Bat. Coming off of films like Requiem for a Dream, Darren Aronofsky was already working with Warner Brothers on the film The Fountain when he was approached for a Batman movie. This Batman film already had a script ready from comic book legend Frank Miller, and Aronofsky even wanted Joaquin Phoenix, who is now ironically playing Batman's arch-nemesis the Joker in his own film, for the lead role. Alas, the project was shelved, and perhaps for the better.